welcome to a brand new episode of Too Many Games and Not Enough Time. Yes, COVID's taken over the world. Fam, I ain't got no trim. I had to get a new do-rag. It is stressful out here. You get me? Now, we're not just on YouTube now. We're actually on your devices. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple, all of them thing there, we are there. So if you're over there listening, make sure you come over to YouTube and give us a thumbs up. Now, I'm super excited for my guest today. Yes, I'm honored again to have someone from across the seas. Yes, she is part of Squad. We are talking a very opinionated esports talk, and you cannot mute her, but you might find her unmuted, but she is not scared to mute your ass. Like, she's not a fan of horror. She reviews your trailers and she loves some roulette. Cam, welcome to Too Many Games and Not Enough Time.
Thank you for having me. Wow, what an introduction that was. Wow, Mr. Midas, I'm honored to be here.
I'm so glad to talk to you. So, Camille, you are a presenter just like myself in gaming on our actual sister channel. So you present on Ginx Esports Canada, and that's how I kind of got on hold of your stuff, and big fan of your work. How did you even get into esports?
My journey is such a weird one. I actually started off my career through a part-time job while I was working at a bank, while also studying in secondary school. So I was in university, I got a job at the bank, and of course, you know, the bank pays well. So I was kind of caught up in that. I moved up into a management role, but I just wasn't happy. That wasn't what I wanted to do. So I actually started writing for a video game website called Console Creatures, and I was writing there. Through that, I got invited to some events to check out new releases, to interview some devs. And through doing that, I networked, and I just started to get all these gigs, people giving me opportunities to host local events for them. And then, you know, I got Squad.
Dope. So you literally started with the money. You started straight there with the bank. Nobody can ever try to, no one can try to undercharge you, because you started with the money. Bring the moolah. I don't want to hear no talk. I worked in a bank. I know what kind of money is going in esports.
You know what's up. And the thing is, I've always had a passion of gaming. Like, my first gaming memory is my dad getting me a Super Nintendo for Christmas and freaking out, like losing my mind to just have my dad and my mom play Street Fighter and Super Mario World that whole night. I didn't even get to touch the console. And like, that's kind of how I was brought up, with lots of games and entertainment in my life. So I'm a huge, firstly, Nintendo fan, Legend of Zelda. I love them, but I'm a huge gamer. So it just kind of made sense, because a lot of the feedback I was getting from hosting is that people are like, you're so passionate. Like, I nerd out. Like, you'll hear me do a little snort here and there, because like, I'm just nerding out hard. So I love what I do. And I get, and you probably get this a lot of people asking you, how do you get into the industry? And, you know, I would like to say, you know, just keep doing free gigs over and over, and that's all you do. But, you know, I feel like we're kind of on the same page. We understand you got to pay bills. So even if you have to do it part-time starting off and kind of work your way up and do some free stuff on the side, but then also to build your resume and then understand that, yes, you could start charging people because you have a worth, is very important. So I always preach that whenever anyone asks me. I'm like, remember, you have a worth, you have something unique to offer, and you just need to sell it to people.
Well, you already spoke to my heart, because like Legend of Zelda, that is my,
I'm trying to find mine right now, but like I've been moving. So I just moved into this area, like my new house. So I've been setting up downstairs, like all my figures. So I just have this one here with me right now. So,
you spoke to my heart. So Unfortunately, the world has been in a very difficult place. Like the world's been upside down. And COVID's obviously affected so many people, and we've been stuck in and not being able to be out. Now, as gamers, even though like myself and very similar, like we've got big personalities and stuff like that, we're still very much introverts, and we love having some time to ourselves and gaming. So now you've had a little bit more time on your hands. What have you been playing?
Oh my God. Honestly, firstly, the pandemic obviously has been so hard for many people. And I feel for people, especially in creative spaces. I know like when you started this podcast, it was coming from this need to just create, right? And not being able to interact with people, because creating is such a collaborative effort, right? So, and being in the studio, not being able to have that, it's just firstly like amazing that you started this podcast and now you're able to connect with so many people across the world, over the sea, you know? But for me, like when the pandemic was starting, I felt that same, lack of that thing in my life, and that actually helped me go back to just gaming and like having that as me time, because of the show I'm on, Squad, we do reviews, we do reactions to trailers, we talk about gaming news. We went from a daily format before, so we were doing that on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of my time is not only hosting, but producing and writing content for that show. So I felt so many times when I was playing games, it was always just for work. Just to look at it as, objectively as I can, try to get all the notes, like what other people may think of this game and what they want to know when jumping into it. So, when we went into lockdown, it was a great opportunity, a reminder for me as to why I got into gaming in the first place. And like, that's just my nesting ground. So I jumped into the game that, really started gaming off for me. I actually went back onto Nintendo Online and I started playing Super Mario World again. I beat that and it got my nostalgia going. So then I actually went back into Breath of the Wild. I've played now, Spider-Man Miles Morales. I've played that probably I'm going into my fourth playthrough of that game. That game is just so special on so many levels. Yes, the traversing's amazing. They built on it from the previous Spider-Man game, but the story, especially with everything that's going on in the world, it just really speaks to me. So I love revisiting that one.
So, all right, let's break that down because there's a lot of information. I love it. I love your energy. All right. So firstly, we working in gaming, we're very lucky and we're very privileged that we get free games, and it's a dope thing. But one thing a lot of people who don't work in the industry don't realize is a lot of the time you're playing games, you're playing for work. So you don't get that immersion that you get when you're just fanning out and playing with your friends or just enjoying your own time. Like you're always thinking as a critic. So when you're able to, like, one of the things I do is when I'm playing a game, sometimes I will play it and then I'll play it to capture. And then after I've captured all my footage, I'll reset it and just start playing it to enjoy it, because I didn't get to enjoy it the same way when I was capturing that footage. So
and when you're capturing, you're like thinking, okay, would this look good in the B-roll? How's the camera angle? Like your thought process is completely different.
Exactly. Because I'm just like you, I produce a lot of content as well. So you're like, I'm the gamer, I'm the producer, I'm the host, I'm thinking of everything at one time. But you went back to like OG Super Mario. Like, how did that feel?
It felt so good. Honestly, a lot of Nintendo games hold up. Just their graphics and style of the old games, they were ahead of their time when those games came out, right? So they hold up that well. And it's just
we won't talk about like the N64 like GoldenEye games because they don't hold up.
No. N64 and a little bit of, I would say even GameCube, because I jumped into Mario Sunshine for the first time. I've never played that game as a part of their All-Star collection. So I jumped into that, and the camera, like, it makes you nauseous.
Yeah, the camera's mad. But I do like Sunshine. I'm one of the few people who actually prefer Sunshine over Galaxy. I know.
No.
To say.
What?
I know. Well, I don't know what it is about Sunshine. I just like. Do you know what it is? I love the sun. I love the beach. I love being in I want to be in Jamaica right now, and that's what it is. You get me? I don't want to be in space. I want to be at the Ross Beach. I live in England.
The soundtrack is pretty good too.
I don't have no proper beaches. You get me?
Yeah. Well, it's always raining where you are too. So
exactly. And
I get that.
One point that you kind of stood on, which is really, really important, is like as Black creatives and as Black talent, like we've always had to grab and gravitate to any Black character that comes in the game because there's not many of us. Like for example, I'm the biggest Final Fantasy fan, and I can count on my hand the good Black characters. So for PlayStation to actually launch the PS5 with Miles Morales and him being Black Latino, but not just his skin being Black Latino, like the culture was in that game, like that they spoke to people in the community and really understood what was going on. Like I felt like I was in his family house on Christmas dinner, not just he was a NPC with black skin.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. Like as Black creators, and as any type of person of color, because there's such a lack of representation in video games, especially if you're from an older generation that grew up with like the N64 or even the Super Nintendo, there were like no characters. I used to really hope that Impa, because she was a little tanned in Ocarina of Time, I'm pretty sure Impa is like Black. To find out, no, when they did Breath of the Wild, she's not Black. But you gravitate to those characters, or you try to like identify with whatever characters are out there, a little bit of your culture. So when you jump into Miles Morales, you're really feeling it in all of New York. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to New York or even Harlem before.
Yeah, I have.
If you have, as soon as you boot up that game, you get that feeling that you're there. It is so diverse in the environment, like you mentioned. When you're walking down the street, you're hearing the music, the types of food people are eating, the food stands. You get that whole sense of, this is where I belong. And they kept pushing that message as well within the game. You'll hear some of the NPCs and some of the missions that you go on, they'll talk about, this is our Spider-Man. And for you and me, we very much feel like that is our Spider-Man. That is our game. And that's why I like to revisit it and just play it over and over. I've cried so many times in that game. Yes, it's a little bit emotional, but more for how it just brings me so much joy because I'm able to experience that myself. And now I have a nephew, and he's a Black boy growing up in a time where now he has Black Panther to look forward to, in the movie theaters. He has these toys of Miles Morales from Into the Spider-Verse, and now a video game. It's just so beautiful because we didn't have any of that.
That's literally what I was going to say to you. I was literally about to say, could you imagine being young and growing up with like Black Panther, growing up with the Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse movie, and then growing up with Miles Morales Spider-Man PS5 game? Like that, for those kids, like, I love it. And it's so important.
To give you even some of like just quickly a little bit of context, like my dad, he's a huge nerd. Like he got me into Star Trek. We've watched all the Blade movies together, but Blade was that thing he could gravitate to while I was going through video games because that was the only video game I can remember with a Black protagonist throughout the story.
Our minds are synced. What I was literally saying to someone the other day that we didn't like our Black superhero was Blade. That was our Black superhero. That's who we had.
That's who we had.
Minds are synced.
We are synced right now.
I love it.
We are synced. But my dad, playing that, and I would watch my dad play that. I think it was on PS2 that game came out. So I'd watch him play that and he'd play it over and over and over again. And I'd be like, Dad, like, why are you playing this? Now I understand why he's playing it over and over. And now that he sees, PlayStation 5, you have Miles Morales, or even on PlayStation 4, you can play it. He's loving it. And he wants me to send him like any fan creations that I find over the internet that people create around Miles Morales. So it's just, astonishing the response that the community has had as Black people, but also people outside of the community understanding and appreciating what that means.
I love it. All right. How we haven't spoken about it at all. We both host on a esports channel, and you've got hell of stuff to say about esports, and I love it. I love watching your show. I love how opinionated and how direct you are. Just briefly, how did you get into esports, and why do you love it so much?
Yeah, so because I covered games more of the traditional, like casual gaming aspect, so I was covering more new releases, I actually explored the world of esports later on when I started on a show before Squad that was also on Ginx called HUD. And from there, like it really opened my eyes to how big this world is. Of course, I was well aware of it, but understanding the types of passion, like it's very different than a traditional gamer. Some of these competitors I've had the pleasure of hosting some Mortal Kombat tournaments, and even being a part of Street Fighter tournaments, and seeing that, like, as I like to call, that's the grassroots of like esports right there. The fighting game community, they are the basis of esports. And when you see how down to earth, how passionate they are, how hilarious there are some funny people in the FGC as well. You can't help but to fall in love with it, and that's what I did. And it's just such everyone talks about esports that are outside of it as like this hot topic because it's booming. But what I want to see is really, especially living in Canada, really it diversifying what this means in terms of traditional media. As gamers get older, we're going to be watching the news. We're going to be watching, traditional sports channels, and we want to see esports content on that more and more. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's so dope that you say that, because what I always say to people is like the most diverse part of esports that I experience is the FGC, which is fighting game community, to anyone who doesn't know. So like the fighting game community is the one place in esports where I see so much diverse, like races, bare Black people, like that's when you go really see the diversity. But it's weird because that's like one of the most grassroots, but it's probably the least funded. It's like they get the smallest money when it comes to like esports games. And then when you start going to like the Call of Duties and the Dotas and the CSGOs and stuff like that, you see
so much funding go into there.
So much funding, but hardly any diverse faces. You're seeing such a small percentage.
And I feel that as well, like, it's just fact. Like, you can't even feel it. It's just fact. That's what it is. And I play a lot of Call of Duty. I have like over 400 hours in Warzone. It's a lot. And I play Call of Duty like... I may be addicted a little bit, but I have like every Monday I play COD with the same group of guys, like my friends that I grew up with. And I love Call of Duty, but it's hard for me, like, and I love watching COD esports, but I just wish it was more diverse. And I don't understand why fighting games, that diversity that we don't see in other sports, but we're seeing the funding there. People need to start questioning that and demanding more from these orgs that are looking for talent to really showcase the types of gamers that are within that space. Because there are a lot of Black gamers that are playing COD. So we just need to start seeing them.
That is, I don't know. It's hardly any Black gamer I know who don't play COD. So that is such a true statement. Do you know what? I literally could talk to you all day, and I feel really bad that I have to cut this short. I actually want you to come back on Too Many Games. I've never had a repeat guest ever, but I'd love to get you back on Too Many. You'll be I'd love to get you back on because there's so much more that I really want to talk to you about, and I just love like your mindset and the way you think, and I think we have a great conversation. But Too Many Games, we're only a short podcast, so I just want you to let the people know where they can find you, what they should watch, and what they should look out for.
Well, you can find me, like Mr. Midas said, on Squad, which is on Ginx Esports TV Canada. We are also on Amazon Prime and Apple TV, so you can find us all there. But you can follow my journeys at This Is Camco. I have lots of different projects that I'm working on, so you just look out. Everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, I post all the time.
Just look out, and she is about it. You've already heard her. Like, we're in sync. We think the same. And I have to say, she is super talented, an amazing presenter. So make sure you book her. If you need any international stuff, book her, get her over here and get some work done. Now, she's been Camille. She's been amazing. I've been Mr. Midas. Now, remember, if you're listening to us on Spotify, come over to the YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe, all right? I'll see you later. Peace.